Hi, my name is Ruben. You may know me from my podcast, 5 Minute Warning. It takes a special person to do something that others can't do or don't do, but then take it to another level. What drives people to take that extra step, that extra gear? I don't know. Well, I decided that I would ask those who've taken that extra step to see why they do what they do. Then I can ask myself, why not me? How we doing, everybody? Thank you for joining us on the show today. On this episode, we have the famous Marcus J. How we doing today, Marcus?
I'm outstanding, Big Rube. I'm good. How you doing, bro?
Man, life is beautiful. I can't complain. I
Yeah,
cannot complain whatsoever.
yeah.
S- So, once again, we're going to talk about your pathway, I would like to say, in the world. We'll talk about a couple of different things. But, first of all, I want to get the fans out there to know exactly who you are. Who is Marcus J?
Well, Marcus A is a lot of people. Um, I guess right now I'm a podcaster. I'm a yogi. I'm a lover of life. I'm a lover of people. I'm surly. I'm a Gemini. Surly and yogi don't seem to go together, but I'm a little bit of both, and I'm a happy man. I'm at a stage in my life. I'm a happy man, so that's what it is.
Awesome, awesome. So, let's start a little bit at the beginning. And I would say that probably at the beginning of a phase in your life, you decided that maybe you want to be an activist of such. Can you explain how that came about? Like, what was the thought process on how you want to do that, or what brought this on, basically?
Well, it wasn't anything that I really thought about. When I was a young person, I was always aware of what was going on and the things that were happening in the world around me. I was in university. I was at Virginia Union University when the Million Man March happened, and I remember being really frustrated because here I am at a HBCU and had a black male instructor who told us that if anybody didn't come to class that day specifically, that there would be academic consequences. And
Whoa.
half the class didn't care and they went, and the other half took heed and didn't go. And I was one that didn't go, and it was a life regret. It is a life regret of mine. It's the Million Man March, and it was something that was very pivotal to people our age. And so when I realized that I hadn't gone to that, and uh, 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 I had that fire in me to be a part of solutions. Every opportunity that I had to marches or rallies and things of that sort, I made sure that I would go. I was inspired. Initially, a few years before that, my freshman year at Virginia Union University was during the Clinton year, the first Clinton year,
Okay.
1992, 30 years ago this year. And uh, there was a rally on campus, and the rally was led by Reverend Al Sharpton, L. Douglas Wilder, who was the governor of Virginia at the time, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. I had just turned 18, and on my 18th birthday, Bill Clinton was on the Arsenio Hall show playing the saxophone. So, those are the earliest seeds for me. I knew that night I was going to vote for him. He didn't have to say anything. He's on Arsenio with Lokes on and playing the sax, and then to the rally, a few weeks later, and then a few years later, I'm unable to go to the Million Man March. So the seeds of that sort of thing was sown with me during my college years, and I went through a lot of protest marches and traveling to do it. I've been all up and down the East Coast and wearing out sneakers and chanting "No justice, no peace" with my fist in the air with my various friends and family who indulge in those sort of things. And Then you come back home and you share what you had seen and what you had experienced. You try to encourage other people towards empowerment and programs and things of that sort. So, these are the things that I was doing in my 20s and 30s. But then, uh, I guess in my late 30s, I had an opportunity to kind of change or shift, from being on the account to actually encouraging and empowering and informing, folks more as a sound piece for activism in the movement, and sharing situations with people that they may not have already known. We have
Mhm.
been on the air doing internet radio and podcasting, live podcasting, since September. The first Tuesday in September of 2011 is when I started, and I was on a radio show called The Green Room. I was the third wheel. A good friend of mine, a good friend of ours, our brother Jay Grizzy, was the host of The Green Room. And you and I obviously had known each other for many years prior to that. But that is when
Mhm.
you and I became reacquainted and relaunched our friendship from a more casual friendship to, that I feel with you now was in those days. And just after a few years of just running my mouth on somebody, few months I should say, running my mouth
Mhm.
on someone else, that guy didn't want to do it no more.
True.
So we rebranded The Green Room to Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, which was the show that I hosted, you co-hosted, until we ran that course. And we made a decision, you and I don't know if you want me to go into the story here, but
Nah, go for it. It's cool.
I certainly can. So you and I had uh, uh, a crossroads, a meeting at a crossroads, where we had reached the end of our contract with the radio station that we were doing our show on, and we did not want to be there. We just didn't want to be there, and so we had a decision: do we continue doing radio, or will we stop? Because the only way that we can continue is if we create our own. And in the course of the conversation, I believe it was you or me. I can't remember now. The years have taken this part of my memory from me, but one of us, independence is key to building your life. Matter of fact, I said that, and you said legacy internet radio. I think that's the way it went. And
Sure, I'll
so,
take that.
yeah, you don't remember either, right?
Nah,
you
no,
know,
I'm not even gonna try to lie for you and take
yeah,
credit.
but I do remember the details of the conversation, although
Yes.
my memory escapes on which one of the two of us coined these phrases. But independence is key to building your legacy was the phrase, and legacy internet radio was spawned from that phrase. And we created, you and I,
Yes, sir.
Legacy Internet Radio, which launched on the first Monday in March of 2013.
Whew.
It was an honor, man. I get emotional talking about this because I'm in a different place in my life now than I was in 2013 when we
Mhm.
did that. And it was great because I had spent many years up to that point, even prior to us doing radio, listening to and following talk show hosts, and
Yeah.
the people who I would listen to. It was just so disparate and wide ranging that it met all of my tastes. And it wasn't just activism. People like Joe Madison and Al Sharpton, and my personal mentor, the number one true fighter, Warren Ballantyne. Of course, I listened to people like them, but then I listened to Dan Patrick, and I listened to Eric Casilius, who was my favorite for a long
Mhm.
time. And we don't hear much from Eric these days, but he was great. Alan Cowherd, Michael Kay,
Yeah.
folks like them. And so just listening to them and just absorbing how those shows would operate, I was able to kind of say, if I ever have a chance to do something like this, I think I might, feel the energy of all of that people that I actually like to listen to. And lo and behold, I did get, that opportunity with you and with Jay Grizzy. And the crew that we created. It was
Yeah.
7 of us that started, with Grizzy and Big Rube and Carlton Banks and uh, comedian S. Lissa P and Miss Tony and Arthur Charisma, yours truly, were the
Mhm.
original 7 people that created Legacy Internet Radio, and it just
Yeah.
grew. It just grew. I would go in that room some days and I would see people I never knew before. It's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. In the years that we had space, I've had my hand on the pulse of RVA, the capital city of Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. And I found that there's a wealth of creativity and knowledge, and passion and desire and talent right here in this town. And we got an opportunity to meet them.
We
We
did.
got an opportunity to not just meet them, but here's where the activism took a different face. We had an opportunity to present them to their audience and ours. And it was an absolute honor because, when I'm with my daughter and we go places, people say, hey, what's up, Marcus J? Hey, Marcus J. Hey, Marcus J. And it's not on some celebrity type stuff. That's not at all what it is. I never fancied myself anything like that. People were grateful for the opportunity to come there and meet other people and develop contacts and find other people who are like-minded, and had did similar things, or maybe they did things that were different, but they met folks that could fill a need in their lives. That's
Yeah.
the part of that I'm most proud of, the connections that we facilitated with people who just happen to be at the radio station today. You know what I mean? And now you have a whole relationship with someone that you would not have known
Yeah.
had it not been for the Den. That's what we call that space. We called it the Den, that opened, in April, May of 2013. Because,
Yeah.
I always like to talk about where we started in March of 2013. You want to tell them, or can I
Go
tell them?
no, man, you go ahead and tell it, brother.
We were in Big Rube's kitchen.
We did a whole,
It
what,
was
2 months
Big
from there,
Rube.
right? We did
We
2
did,
months
yeah,
in the
about 2
kitchen.
months. We did in your apartment, live from your kitchen before we moved to the Den. And Jay Grizzy, of course, coined the phrase the Den.
Yeah.
I'm not from Jamaica, but you see the flag behind me, and I'm sure it's just, that's my spiritual home. And part of their culture, the Rastafarian culture, the reggae culture, lions are very prominent in that culture. And so
Mhm.
I always would have photos with lions and things like that. So also, because I'm an alpha male and I fancy myself, a hungry lion, certainly at that time. And so, Grizzy, with that in mind, he was like, man, we in the Den. It was organic. And, we knew immediately that's what we will call this space. This will be forever known as the Den. So when I would open up Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, I would always say, live from the Den of Legacy and Radio. It's a lot of pride in that. As you can see now, the Den closed its doors in January of 2021, but we had, nearly an 8-year run in the Den. With all of the people, I could turn on the evening news on any of the local channels here, at least, a couple of times a month. I'll see somebody that's on television, maybe being interviewed, or maybe there's a story done about them and the great things that they have done. And I know them because I met them in the Den.
Yeah.
Whether I was interviewing them, or maybe you were interviewing them, or maybe one of our other brothers and sisters on the various other shows that we had, and that's a great thing, because when I say the various other shows we had, now remember, we started with 7 people,
Yep.
and from those 7 people, there was one show, and then Jay relaunched the Green Room Volume 2 with him and Melissa.
Mhm.
Now there's 2 shows, and then we meet Mr. Steven Sykes, and he does it live in radio. Now there's 3 shows, and then we, bestowed, All Throttle Radio and some of the other shows that we had, Twar After Dark. One day I looked up and we had a show on every single day of the week, Monday through Sunday, or
Yeah.
Sunday through Saturday, however we saying this week, and on the weekends, 2 and 3 shows. It's like, how did this happen? Like that has happened. And so this is how there was always one, you, me, Steven, some, one of the core people who was always in the room, just to kind of maintain authority and order in the room. But we would always have an opportunity to meet these people who will come in and share their gift and their craft with us. That's my activism. Like, that's my legacy. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of that, because I got to do it with you and five other wonderful people, at his origin and at his foundation. So, there's so much more to it, but that, it to me is kind of a preamble to where all of that kind of ran its course, and we peaked, or I peaked, with regards to social activism during those days. I've since kind of grown from it. I have kind of moved to a different phase, but you asked about my activism. That is where that was its origin, my college days, to its full cycle, to marching, to its peak, now towards retirement in that realm of my life, at this stage. So I still do the podcast. I still do it every Monday night, live from New Den of Legacy and Radio, Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. And I've got a wonderful, wonderful, tag team of partners. We're a trio with my brother John, who came to us by way of another Legacy Internet Radio alumni. Our sister Ashley Joy, Joy and Body Radio, did a show. John was a friend of hers, and I met him at the Den, and we became friends and brothers. And he just found himself coming to the show, and he would sit in the back, and just listen and whatever. And every once in a while, something would come up, and he would grab the mic, and next thing you know, here we are. He's rocking with me. Then he's 2/3. He's the second third of the show, and then last but not least, my sister Steph, our sister Steph B. One of the most brilliant and one of the most well spoken and just wonderful, wonderful people that I've ever met. I met her where, at the Den. She had also happened to be there with someone else, and we had made passing acquaintances before, and we had talked about her potentially doing her own show, but there was some pause to before we went through with it. And so the agreement was made. I said, well, why don't you come and hang out with me on my show a couple times and see how it works out, and maybe we'll do something with you at a later time. And she came on my show and never left, and she joined with John and me, and now she's my right hand on my right side. And John and Steph and yours truly on that podcast, Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. With all due respect to all of the hosts that I've ever had, and co-hosts and partners, that trio is the best fit for me because we're so different. We're so different, but then there's a lot of similarities to us, and it just works so well. And I'm so happy and proud to see the evolution of my journey in radio. And one thing that I didn't mention that we were doing for a while during our peak years was we had Legacy TV, where we were producing a live television show, I guess was it once a month. We did that for about 3 years of our 8-year run in the Den. So we were very busy, and that those TV shows were an extension of the radio show and the radio station, but we had the opportunity to be seen in this way that we're being seen now is different because the technology is different just in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
There were ways that you could have done it, but it wasn't easy to do. So we had to go to a television studio, and we had a television producer and a director who would actually produce and direct our show while we were there. It was so cool to me and for us. We're on television. I mean, it's local access, but we would put the video and all that stuff's on YouTube now. So if you ever want to go back and see it, and we had some really, really cool stuff that we did, man. It's just been a journey. It's been really, really fun to be a part of. And I am a huge fan of sports, and I certainly don't want to put myself on the level of a professional athlete, but I would like to analogize for just a moment. If there
Okay.
are any sports fans that are watching and listening and fellowshipping with us in this conversation, I'll give you an analogy. Just think about whatever your favorite sport is and whatever your favorite ball player is. And in my case, there's many, but Derek Jeter is a Yankee and I'm a Yankees fan. We'll use him for an example. I'm about 2 weeks older than Derek Jeter to put things in perspective in that way. But, Derek Jeter played 20 years for the New York Yankees. And, when you're in it and you're going for the grind every single day, 162 ball games. And of course, the playoffs, once you get to the end of the year, you just want to rest and get ready for the next year. But after that final year is done, and in this case for Derek, it was 2016. For me, it was 2021. Once you play your final game or do your final show in that space, there's a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
It's a letdown because you're used to running a certain kind of way, and so there's a letdown. Now, you don't regret your decision to change. I'm sure Derek is glad he retired when he did, and I'm certainly glad that we closed the doors to the den when we did. But while I was in it, I wasn't able to appreciate the greatness of what we had. I wasn't able to appreciate the way that we literally captured lightning in a bottle, and the disparate types of people that I was able to meet, and not only meet, but interview. I got an opportunity to interview my radio mentor multiple times. I had an opportunity to have conversations with Dr. Umar Johnson and Dick Gregory, Congresswoman Spanberger. I had an opportunity to meet and have conversations with Umar bin Hussein, who is a legendary hip hop star from the 80s. I was able to talk to Rashawn McLeod, who's a former NBA player for the Atlanta Hawks, and an opportunity to talk to Nyree Roberts, who's a world champion for the Houston Comets in the WNBA, and I was able to talk to a 14-year-old band of young girls who played instruments. They were a girl band with guys and they
Yeah.
were rock singers. I had an opportunity to have conversations with people who you may not know their names, but maybe they created their own business and they needed to have someone hear about it, or maybe they wrote a book, and they needed to get some sort of promotion. So it was just, I got an opportunity to interview the great granddaughter of Chicken George, who we saw in the series Roots. Like I had an opportunity to talk to these people, and had it not been for activism and internet radio and legacy internet radio, the station, and now the shift into live podcasting, I would not have had the opportunity to have those experiences, speak to those people, have those people speak to me, promote those businesses, and just share with the viewers and listeners the greatness of that talent that we have in our community, near and afar.
Yes,
Man,
sir.
it's been a hell of a ride. It's been a hell of a ride, man. You know, and what's really funny, Big Rude? When I think about the journey, right?
Hmm.
And I mentioned to you that I have shifted from that stage in activism to a more peaceful fare. I was the guy who would put something on Facebook and look for people to come and have these debates. And I'm not a fighter. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to argue with you fairly and debate and all that sort of stuff. But I used to like to throw those bombs and get in there and back and forth with people and all that kind of stuff. I don't have that anymore. That part of me is kind of gone. The politics, I still, follow, and I still have, idea of what's going on. And I certainly can have a conversation with anybody about anything. The janitor or the CEO
Hmm.
can rock with me, because I'm certainly going to rock with them, and I'm going to treat the janitor just like I'm going to treat the CEO, because they are a man or a woman, and they deserve respect, for those folks who don't think that one deserves the respect of the other. I am one of those. I treat everybody, with respect. But now, as I've gone into a different stage, the irony of all of this is, I mentioned in the intro that I've become somewhat of a yogi. I've gone from, kind of being the face of the station and making lots of appearances and kind of spending a lot of time in the energy of a lot of different people. I've shifted into yoga, which is a very solitary thing that's done with community, but it's very, very solitary with regards to you as an individual. And it was a chance meeting where at Legacy Internet Radio, where I met my yoga mentor, one of them, because I have several, our sister Ashley Williams, who is the founder of Bare Soul Yoga and the Well Collective here in Richmond, Virginia. Look them up. But I just met her. She was there with someone else, and she talked to us
Mhm.
about going to yoga and doing yoga, and I was like, wow, okay, that must be really cool. And then I didn't really think about it. I just didn't really think about it. It wasn't until a few years later that I saw that they were doing what they call community yoga here at the 17th Street Market in the capital city here in Richmond, Virginia. And I said, you know what? I think I'll go check that out. So I go out there and I do the class, and it's pretty cool. And they said, we're going to do this all season. So I'd gone 2 times. They have it on Wednesdays, usually from the spring to the fall. And
Mhm.
when the fall came and there was no more yoga out there at the 17th Street Market, my body and my spirit, said, well, we still want to do yoga, you know, where Bare Soul Yoga was or where Ashley Williams was. And I ended up going to a class there, and it hooked me. It absolutely hooked me. And the really cool thing about this, Rube, is it's taught me so much about myself, and it's taught me so much about life. One of the things that any good instructor is going to do is they're going to drill down very consistently that this is your practice, meaning don't be in here worrying about what your neighbor is doing. You do what's in your skill set. Protect your body. Don't hurt yourself. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Basic stuff, basic
Yeah.
stuff that you teach a kid. Don't be worrying about anybody else. Don't be trying to, copy anybody else. Work within your skill set. And breathing is innate to all of us. These are basic principles that we've been able, or I've been able to recalibrate into my life, and it's been able to help me. Many of us, and myself included, suffer from some sort of anxiety. You have inside of your spirit, hey, I worry about this. There's
Mhm.
various levels of anxiety, and there's various levels of transparency, even talking about anxiety. I've graduated to the next level because I'll talk about it. It was years where you kind of shield all of that with bravado and arrogance because you protect yourself in certain kind of
Of
ways. But
course. Of course.
as I've gotten older, I've relaxed that a bit, and I've become more comfortable authentically inside of my own skin. And a lot of that has been over the last few years since I have been taking these classes and participating in community, because the reality of this, honestly, man, we all just trying to live, man. We all just trying to
Very true.
find a way to have peace in our lives and do the things that make us comfortable. We want to make sure that our families are safe and prosperous and confident and all of these things. And you know, most of the lessons that we learn in life, we learn them in youth. We lose them as we get older. We
Mhm.
lose them for a variety of reasons. Maybe we got lazy, maybe we had trauma. All of these things play into why we don't practice what we've been taught. But we all, I can't speak for all, so let me not say that. Many of us have been taught how to be good human beings in our lives. And we've been taught how to conduct ourselves on a communal level and as an individual level, how we take care and we deal with ourselves. And we lose that. We get caught up in the superfluities of life that just throw us into strange places that we really don't want to be in. And many of us find peace and balance, and everybody finds their peace and balance in different ways. Maybe you go to the gym, maybe you are a runner, maybe you lift iron, maybe you like to go bowling or fishing or hiking, whatever it is that you do. that you use to ground yourself, that you use to create your own peace. I would implore anyone to explore that sort of thing, because it's important. So anyway, that is what I have gotten, and that is where I have moved to this stage of my life. And it's funny because I'm a natural grump. I'm pretty grumpy all the time, from time to time. Don't chalk it up to my heart. Chalk it up to my astrological sign. I'm a Gemini, so you get the yin and the yang. The surly yogi is the phrase, the tongue in cheek phrase that I've coined. But it is very helpful with the balance and the new activism, the new ministry that I have found myself now as I find myself planted firmly in middle age, in my late 40s, almost 50 in 2 years, depending on when you're viewing this, because this is going to be available for all perpetuity. But my new ministry is to find your peace. I'm still observant. I still have the activist gene that I had 11 years ago when we started radio. I still have my fist planted firmly in the air, and I still feel the things that I felt when I was at my peak doing
Yeah.
those things. But this is the natural evolution for me, and it's just been a blessing to be in it. It's not easy. People think that when you find yourself evolving that everything's great and I'm so happy and all those things. That's not the case. I still have my bouts of grumpy like I used to before, and now I've tried to find different ways to manage all of that. So
Okay,
it's just
so
it's a journey.
all right, so I would be let's pause right there for a second, because
Sure.
I would be remiss if I don't mention that your hat says Jersey City on it. And I believe the correct phrase that I'm supposed to use if I was from Jersey City would be Jersey City stand up, if I'm correct. So how does, I mean, because we're in Virginia, you
Yeah.
know, and you mentioned that you went to a HBCU in Virginia. I believe
Yeah.
you did mention Virginia Union University.
I did.
How did a young black man from Jersey City find a small HBCU in Virginia, a Virginia Union, and what made you want to come to Virginia?
That's a very cool story. Thank you for asking. As you can obviously tell, I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I grew up a New York Knicks fan.
I'm
You're
sorry.
wondering, what does that have to, yeah, right? What does that have to do with anything? Well, couple things. When I was a young guy, I spent all of my summers in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I have family. And I spent time on the campus of North Carolina A&T in my youth. And it was just something cool about an HBCU, even before I fully knew what that meant. I knew that it was special. I knew there was something cool about it. Greensboro out, I don't know, 8.5 hour drive from Jersey City. So when it came time to go to college, I knew I wanted to go down south. And I also knew that I wanted to go to an HBCU, but I wasn't confident that I wanted to go that far. And I applied to all of the biggies, Morehouse, Howard, Hampton, Shaw University, Virginia Union. I was accepted to all of them, including Dartmouth College up there in New England, which there was no way I was going to PWI, and even if it's Ivy League, all the way up there. But anyway, how does me being a Knicks fan play into that? Well, you'd watch your games, you hear your announcements, you hear Patrick Ewing, Georgetown University. You'd hear Mark Jackson, St. John's College or University, whichever one, which respect it was at the time, and you'd hear others. But then you'd hear Charles Oakley, Virginia Union. What, it just didn't really fit. Didn't really
Yeah.
fit, And Charles was my guy. Like, Charles was my guy. You love your team and you love certain players that you love, maybe a little more, a little less than others. But Charles was my guy, and he went to some school called Virginia Union. So Like, wow, okay, so I always had it there. I went to Monumental Baptist Church in Jersey City, and in my junior year, they had a college tour that they were doing. They toured Howard University, Hampton University, William and Mary uh, College, I think, or university. I'm not sure. My apologies if I got that wrong. And Virginia Union University. Those were the four. And when I saw that Virginia Union was on the schedule, I immediately thought of Charles. I immediately had the connection. And so I knew I wasn't going to William and Mary. I knew before we left Jersey City, I wasn't going there. So that really, and I did not want to be in DC. So that really left Hampton and Virginia Union University.
Mm-hmm.
I did not feel comfortable on the campus of Hampton. Keep getting the H's confused. And of course, I already had the love, the natural love for Charles, so it narrowed it down. And it was a later visit individually without the church, with just my family,
Mm-hmm.
that sealed the deal. So I decided that I was going to go to Virginia Union University. And on August 11th, 1992, I stepped foot on campus as a freshman, and I've been in Virginia ever since.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I just felt it was necessary to you got the Jersey City hat on, so
yeah,
I
man.
almost felt like I had no choice. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
what?
always repping home, man. I have a dual love, and I've had this conversation with people before when Jersey City and Richmond comes up. Which one you love more? When I'm in New Jersey, they can tell I've been down here, and when I'm here, people from here, they swear they know I'm not from here. They know I'm from up north somewhere. So I guess my swag kind of is a hybrid of the two. I suppose, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a little different from here and there, I would think.
yeah, I think it's awesome, and I love both. Jersey City is where I was born. It was where I was raised, where my family is residing, and where my family will have their final resting places with respect. Nobody's, they're all there.
Hmm.
But Richmond turned me into a man. I became a man here. You know what I'm saying? I met my wife here. I have, my daughter is born here and lives here.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I love this town. I love this area. And, I always joke, my death certificate is going to say Richmond, Virginia. Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back a little bit back to the
Okay.
story.
Okay.
So I guess so. Let's talk a little bit about when you decided when we had the conversation about creating legacy internet radio. Um, I think it's I want to say it literally took us somewhere between 5 and 7 days to A, get the equipment, B, come up with the name, and get all the other logistics kind of worked out because we decided what the last at the last show after the last show on the other location, and literally the next week we're in my kitchen doing legacy internet radio. They ain't no half step with Marcus J show. So I guess I wanted to bring up the fact that you don't have to wait days, months, weeks. You just got to do it. You got to just jump into it. And do you feel like if we had waited longer than the 7 days, would we have ever gotten the legacy internet radio thing done?
There's no way. It had to be done the way it was done. You know, we wanted to do radio. You wanted to do radio. I wanted to do radio. And of the crew that we had, we were the only ones that were passionate about it. There were others that was with us. Remember, there's seven.
Mm-hmm.
And there were others that were with us that supported us, and obviously, and they're with us, and they're a part of what it was that we created. They were our family and our support.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I were the engine and the brains and the desire and the motor and all of the analogies. We were that, and we wanted to do radio, and we just were confident that we couldn't do it the way we wanted to do it where we were. And so we were motivated. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We were motivated, and we had different motivations and different reasons for wanting to do this. You had yours, I had mine, but that combined passion is what made it work. And one of the things, you can speak for yourself and what motivated you, but one of the things that motivated me was I did not want to go a week off the air. It was important to me that our listeners had a consistent show every single week with our presence, whatever that meant, whatever that looked like. It was important to me. And so, we divvied up the tasks of the things that we figured out that we needed to do. And you did your part and I did my part. And whatever, it was, it ended up becoming some magic, man, because I think we were ready, maybe. We were already testing equipment, on day five,
We're
4 or 5. So we were to make sure that this was going to work. Like we had the license, and we didn't have the paper, but we had the license. It was coming. You know what I'm saying? And we obviously had the equipment, So
yeah.
we were day 4 or 5. So it just was a motivation to get our own, because independence was and always will be the key to building your legacy. And from there, you and I and Lissa and Charisma and Tony and Carlton Banks and Jay Grizzy every single week since had socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. And we have not had this brand since March of 2000. I still do. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Under the legacy in that radio brand to this day. You know what I mean? Because that brand's important. That brand has my blood and your blood and my sweat and your sweat. And every single person who's ever done a show, who's ever co-hosted, who's ever, had a key to the room, who's ever been a guest, who's ever come to one of our parties, because we had, here's the other thing that we can talk about that just popped in my head. We didn't just talk, man. We had activism. We did book drives. We did clothing drives. We donated money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We helped forward ministries. Like, we were a grassroots organization for the sole purpose of continuing our gift and our craft and bringing along other people so they have an avenue to continue on their gift and their craft. Man, come on, man. Life is service. And that is our legacy. Service to each other and to the community.
Yes, sir. Very much so. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and and a lot of this is about how, what makes people tick, like what makes people do what they do with the passion that they do it in. And my hope is, as people watch this, they can feel the passion from you that I felt years ago, and I can still feel that passion. And it's awesome because when it's all said and done, if you want to get something done, it is very true. Sometimes you just got to do it yourself. Sometimes you got to get your hands dirty. You got to put in the work, because once you do that, you are just more, you're more just about it then, because it's yours. And when it's yours, you want nobody to come in, touch it the wrong way. You want it to be the only person or the only group of people to steer the ship. And that's like the most important thing about just not even black people, white people, whatever, just people wanting to do for themselves. If you don't have the passion, if you don't have the drive, if you don't have what it is, I don't know exactly what the word is, but if you don't have it, it's just going to be hard for you to do stuff for yourself. So that's like one of the big things about this, this show. I want to make sure that people understand that, yeah, we had an idea. Literally, we've been talking about it sort of, but literally the night after our last show, our plan went into effect starting Tuesday. And, Amazon had just literally started probably a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
So the Amazon that people know now, when you had Prime and all that, nah, bro, you had to wait 2-3 days. You won't get in that joint next day.
Yeah.
So it's just, that sort of thing, and just looking up all the information and doing it legally. It doesn't
Yeah.
take a long time. It just takes some time. But you
You
gotta
got
have
to
the
do it.
want. You gotta want. You gotta have to drive. And you just gotta do it. I
You
mean,
got to do
Lord knows Nike will probably sue me if I just said just do it. But that's a real thing.
it.
That
Yeah.
is a real thing, and that's what people need to understand, that that is a real thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shift
Okay.
into, we started with your activism and why you wanted to be and why you became an activist. So recently that has shifted to being a social commentator. So if I may ask, what caused that shift?
Evolution, getting older, priorities changing and shifting, just seeing the world differently, finding my place in it, you know, feeling different. I've always been the kind of person to follow my passion and do what feels right, and it just, as I've gotten older, the way I participate is just different. I mean, I don't see a world where I would ever drive 5 hours to go protest march. I don't see a world where I will go and be sleeping on the street, at 5 o'clock in the morning, waiting for something to start at 10, 11 o'clock. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I have done. I just don't see me doing that anymore. So how I have found my footing is to find a different way to participate, and a big part of it, having something like the station, was a vehicle. That's like, as I mentioned, with the drives that we've done, and the way that we've been able to include other folks, your method of reaching people, or empowering, changes. It wasn't productive for me anymore to protest march.
Mhm.
Opportunity came up for me to do radio, so I did that. And then when we created the station, opportunity came up for us to do book bag drives, or for us to promote the Ray Neblett inner city basketball camp, which is going on right now, which is a free camp for inner city kids for a week, for them to show up and learn interpersonal skills, and to learn basketball skills, and for them to do it in the community with other kids. Our mission is to be there and promote that, so that next year, the people who saw us last year, who didn't know about it, now know about it, and they can go and they can support our brother Ray Neblett and his team with regards to the camp. And that's just one example of how it has shifted. Another shift for me, as I've talked a lot about the yoga. One of the things that I have found as a black man in this country, we wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. We have to. This country is hard. This country is hard on black men and black people in particular. It's hard on all its people, and every community has their challenges, but I'm talking about black people right now. And so when I go out into the world, I have to carry a certain armor on me so that I feel protected. But the reality is, maybe my spirit is not quite as armored up as I may have to be perceived while I'm out here. One of the things that I have found is that, being in the community of yoga, I've had an opportunity to be comfortable wherever I am and whatever skin that I'm in, and it's given me great peace. That doesn't mean that I'm not still, protected in my spirit, the armor, but I also now understand that some of my more softer qualities are of value. It's of value for a black man to look at another black man and say, I love you. And then hard pause. It's going to feel awkward at first. Why? Because we don't do it, but
Nah,
we should.
we
We
did. We
should.
should.
It's empowering. Every single person should hear that. Every single person should hear that. And every single person should hear that from someone that they see themselves in. And as a black man, I see myself in you, Big Rube. So of course I love you. You know what I mean? Like, and part of the next evolution of my growth is to understand that, to know what that makes me feel like and how good it makes me feel, and share that with you. Maybe you don't get it from going to yoga. I certainly have gotten it from that, but maybe you get it from somewhere else. Maybe you might hear something that I'm saying today, and you are now empowered to try that thing that you didn't want to try because you was too cool to try it. You know what I mean? You was too cool. Guys don't do that. Or I'm a lady, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, if it's something you want, ladies, you want to pick up a weapon and go to the gun range, that stereotypically a guy's thing, right? Ladies, you want to go play golf, do that. That's stereotypically a guy thing, right? Guys, you want to go do some yoga? Often I'm the only man in the room, and certainly the only black man in the room. Often, often. Now the sisters are a little bit more open to it. There's sisters in the culture, and there are some brothers that are in the culture, and other males of other cultures that participate. But I'm talking to the black men, the brothers, and me. You've been around me.
Yeah.
Some rough edges, that I have. Some of them have just been softened, and I'm happy about that because it gives me peace. And it certainly gives the people who got to deal with me peace, because I'm softer and easier to deal with. you know, so it's just a blessing, man. And I've always been somebody who, even I've been trying to find a life way, a culture way. I grew up in a Christian household, in a Christian family, but I never felt that. I never felt comfortable in that. And I always respected it. Of course, you respected this religion, of course, and then I go to a Baptist university, but it just wasn't something that was innate to me. And I studied, multiple cultures and spiritualities and ways of life in my 20s and 30s. But what I have found for me is that peace and love is the greatest religion that you can ever imagine. Doesn't mean that I don't get mad. Doesn't mean that I don't cuss. Doesn't mean that I don't do what a Christian might call a sin. But what it does mean is I want to be aware of my behavior. I want to be empowering to other people in their behavior. And I want to give grace, man. I want to be well inside of me. I want to give grace to you. And I want to keep it 100 with everybody. So if I rocks with you, I'm going to be gushy about it. I'm going to make it weird. I rocks with you. Brother, I love you. And I don't care if I make it weird. But the flip side of that is, remember, I am the surly yogi. So if I don't, you probably gonna be well aware of that too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just what it is. So it's a wonderful time. They say that youth is wasted on young people. I still feel young. I certainly still look young, and that's not me. That's people who tell it to me. But to have gotten this far in life, to still feel relatively good physically, to be aware that I don't know everything, and I think you got to get to your 40s to realize, or 30s maybe. It's probably in my 30s to realize how very little I did know about things, about life, about all kinds of things, and now I just want to love and I want to learn. I want to sponge it up, and I want to rock with the people that rock with me, and if you don't, then hey, you do you, with with yours, and I do me with mine, and we can cohabitat, because it ain't got to be hard. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
It just ain't got to be hard, and we make it far harder than it needs to be. And I'm just not interested in participating in that no more.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, sir, first of all, I'd like to thank you for um, letting us know how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
Um, just basically giving everybody a little bit of a roadmap on how you have evolved, and how, you know, the drive, like you can feel the drive coming from you. And ultimately on these shows, I want people to feel the drive enough where they know that all they got to do is go out there and do it. So one thing I want to do before the end of this, I will give you an opportunity to send a special message to anybody to people who are listening and watching this episode, as far as that drive and what gets you up in the morning, and just, pretty much give them a message on how to do what they really want to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for, allowing me to speak. And, you know, I'm not used to being on this side of it. I'm used to, you know, leading the conversation and being the interviewer. So it's refreshing and it's fun to be able to speak, and certainly be able to speak on my own journey. It's been a fun journey. Life is good. I'm a happy man. We all have things that we deal with. You should walk with kindness always. With restraints, because some folks don't deserve your kindness. Don't be no punk either. But walk with kindness, in your heart, because everybody, and when I say everybody, everybody's dealing with something, and there's no tail of the tape when it comes to trauma. Like, what you deal with affects you the way it affects you, and is worthy of my respect. But the flip side of that is, I'm going to demand the respect from you to understand that what I'm dealing with is not smaller than what you're dealing with, because you dealing with your stuff. That's an important lesson that we all should learn, because you hear people say stuff like check on your strong friends and all that kind of stuff. Everybody has the potential to be the strong friend. I don't like that phrase. I don't like the phrase, you going through something, you ain't heard from them, and so because you ain't heard from them, they're not your peoples no more. They going through something just like you. Show grace to everybody, those that deserve it. And your discerning eye and discerning heart will determine who those folks are. But err on the side of kindness always, because it will come back to you. It really will. Find something that you can do for you, that regardless of what other thing you got going on, you take the time to indulge in that. This is how you build your own spirit. This is how you build your own credibility with yourself, because you are taking that time to self-care yourself. We spend so much time caring and taking care of other people, and I get it. I said earlier, life is about service. But one of the first things that I learned as a young person in philosophy classes in college was self-preservation is the first law of the land. That's the phrase. Self-preservation is the first law of the land. If you don't know what that means, I didn't at the time. It just sounded like words. But when we broke it down, just think about it. Self-preservation, what does that mean? That means self-preservation, preserve yourself is the first law of the land. The first law. That means take care of yourself before you take care of anything or anybody. When you get on an airplane, when they go through all those stuff, they tell you, one of the first things they tell you is put your mask on first. Why? Because you need to make sure that you take care of yourself so that you can be strong and equipped to take care of someone else. Self-preservation is the first law of the land. Now, don't use that phrase towards obstinance and selfishness. There's a balance here. There's a balance here. But we often are on the wrong side of imbalance. The wrong side of imbalance, meaning we spend so much time in service to other people that we are often left to our own devices, where we don't take care of ourselves, and we are heading towards burnout and addiction and poor behavior and things of that sort, because we need to medicate. Why? Because stuff is stressing us out. So we find a way to take care of ourselves, whatever that looks like. But do something. Do something. And that's the biggest piece that I can give to you. Because once I learned and embraced that, I found that I have more time, more energy to be Mark J for everybody the way I always been.
Awesome, sir. Tell them where they can find Marcus J.
Well, I got the social media. The easiest place to find me is on Instagram. and Facebook. On Instagram, you see it there on your screen at Legacy Internet Radio, Legacy _ Internet _ Radio, and also on Facebook under the group Legacy Internet Radio. It's a group that I admin. My name is Marcus J. Is how I go in social media. Of course, I have the government name, which I won't share. If you know me, you know how to find that. But and if you do go on to the Facebook Legacy Internet Radio page, you'll see it anyway. But that's how you find me now. The podcast that I host, and it's funny that I call it that, Ruben. I used to call it an internet radio show because that's what you are. Now, I've gotten used to using the phrase the podcast now, but it's called Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, which can be found also on Facebook. If you just look under that, type it Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J or Legacy Internet Radio, it'll come up. And I broadcast live every single Monday night at 7 p.m. directly on Facebook Live on those areas that I just mentioned, as well as on YouTube Live. And you can go to our YouTube page. You go to YouTube, you search Legacy Internet Radio. You'll literally, no exaggeration, you'll find years, many years of archives of shows that we've done on all the topics. They're all labeled. And so you can see the variety of the things that we've talked about. We've always been topical, always been right at the forefront of getting these issues debated so that our people will have proper analysis to be able in their lives, whether it be social justice, police brutality, politics, election cycle, whatever it is. We talked about it then, and it's still the foundation of the show because we're not on there talking about namaste and peace and love, even though that's the natural personal energy that I come from. The show still walks under the tagline of Legacy Internet Radio, where independence is the key to building your legacy, and Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J more specifically walks under the tagline of socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. The last thing that I'll say on that is, if you want to know what kind of stuff we talk about, we're talking about the stuff you're talking about at the barbershop, at the beauty salon, in the backyard, with a bottle of Henny or beer or whatever you smoke this thing, whatever it is you do to unwind when you kicking it with the homies and y'all are in a cipher where y'all debating and talking, and maybe it's pop culture, maybe Kanye has said something crazy, Donald Trump done said something crazy, Beyonce's got a new record, Cardi B's got a song called WAP, whatever it is that the Lion King, Lion King, meant to say Tiger King, like whatever it is that is on the mind of people in pop culture in our community, that's something that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be your voice for it.
Awesome, sir. Once again, it is a pleasure to interview you and have you on the show. Thank you again. And, hey, check out Marcus J. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. And until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you when we see you. Peace.